Let us bring on Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He's been on before, and he doesn't really need an introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. He is a Hungarian-American military and intelligence analyst and former deputy assistant to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And now you are a Fox News contributor, right?
As of last week, Drew. Yes.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
I think you can only up the level of Fox News.
And so, between on my way to the studio in the car service, I'm listening to Another Kingdom and enjoying it greatly.
Oh, thanks very much. I appreciate it. Tell your friends.
I do.
So you campaigned for Roy Moore. I mean, you went out with Steve, and you were, on the campaign trail with him. Where do you stand now? What are you thinking now?
I'm thinking exactly what I said the first time these allegations came out. We need to get to the bottom of them. Unlike the Democrats, unlike the Clinton criminal cartel, we don't hound women who accuse men of being rapists or doing sexually inappropriate things. So let's get to the bottom of it. But Sean is absolutely right. In America, we have the presumption of innocence. And on top of that, the timing is very weird. And if you look at the statement with regards to the signature in the high school yearbook that the lawyer gave yesterday, this is getting very, very strange very fast. Let's get to the bottom of it as much as we can. Look, Drew, you spoke about this the first time I was on your show. I've lived the smear world for 8 months in the White House. We are in an environment right now where people will do anything. My dead mother's reputation was attacked because I worked for the president. My teenage high school age son was called a traitor by the left because it's out of control. We have to get to the bottom of it.
All right, fair enough. Is there a point where you would call on Roy Moore to step down? Is there a point where you would just say, yeah, this stuff is true, it's too plausible, I can't...
Yeah, if there was a piece of evidence that wasn't he said, she said, absolutely, I'd have no qualms about doing that. But at the end of the day, I think what Sean said is, it's up to Alabama and the courts and the legal system to get to the bottom of this.
So here's my real question. This is the thing that has been bothering me about this story from the beginning, because I don't know, some of these women sound very credible to me, but you're absolutely right. There is a smear machine in operation now that's like nothing we've ever seen before, like nothing I've ever seen before. And so right. I think, we do have to presume people are innocent. But the one thing we can say about this guy is that he's an endangered candidate who is actually in danger of ceding one of the reddest states in the country to the Democrats at a time when we need every vote in the Senate we can have. This seems to me to call into question. It makes Mitch McConnell look great. Mitch McConnell said Steve Bannon is off there, doing just what the Tea Party did, going out and picking out these offbeat candidates who can't win. So my question is this. I mean, shouldn't we worry about the competency level of Bannon's civil war against the establishment GOP? Doesn't this raise questions about that?
Drew, I was formerly a deputy assistant to the president, but my immediate superior was Steve Bannon. And I can tell you, you can have issues with his style. You can have, questions about how he dresses or what have you, or combs his hair. He is the most strategic mind that I have seen in politics in the modern age. To say that Mitch McConnell knows more about politics than Steve Bannon. When Steve took over the president's campaign, the president was 18 points down. Let's just remember that. 18 points down in August before the election. And what did Steve do? He turned it around. So no, I have no problem with Steve's acumen. And the idea that Mitch McConnell and McCain are attacking Roy Moore, of course they're attacking Roy Moore. Why? Because he wants to drain the swamp, and they are the swamp. So it's not a surprise that these are the people arrayed against somebody who supports the president's agenda.
All right, fair enough. The only other question I want to ask about this is, now you go to another state. We got the midterms coming up, and Steve Bannon stands up, and he is he delivers those speeches. His rhetoric is not moderate. Let's put it that way. He wasn't,
Right.
he uses the word war more than people who are actually in war. So now he stands up, and what's to stop the people sitting there and going, yeah, but you gave us Roy Moore, especially if Moore loses, which I think would be a disaster in a lot of ways. Just electorally, just in terms of having votes. What's to stop people now from looking at him and saying, yeah, but you gave us Roy Moore. How do we know this guy doesn't have skeletons in his closet? How do we know you're vetting these people?
Look, that's a hypothetical. I mean, everybody can have skeletons. You could have skeletons. I've read your autobiography, so you're pretty open about your past.
You know I have skeletons in my life.
I know your skeletons. But no, I'm not going to base the future of America on hypotheticals about people's past lives. Steve has a very simple rule. I spoke to one of his key guys today. The rule is very simple. We're going to support you on two measures. Are you ideologically sound in terms of make America great again, the president's agenda? And number two, are you going to win? Do you have a chance of winning? But those are the two things. And if you don't have a chance of winning, Steve's not going to support you. I'm not going to support you, because it's like President Reagan said, give me 70% of the loaf now, but I have to have the loaf.
So if Moore loses, will you guys sit down and kind of rethink what you did wrong? I mean, will you reassess?
I think politics is a constant re-examination of tactics and strategy, but I don't think you make one outlier the driving factor in your future political strategy. This is Alabama. Alabama is Alabama. It's like you don't use what happened in New Jersey to drive what you're going to do in Arizona. They're different states. Judge Roy Moore is Judge Roy Moore.
Okay. Now we're coming up on a year of Donald Trump, which I know people all across the mainstream media will be celebrating with little cakes and candles and things. It seems to me the big attack on Trump, aside from all the nonsense, is that he doesn't have a big legislative win yet. But it seems to me that he has done a lot of things that I would, as a conservative, I would just never have thought to see in my lifetime. Is that a fair assessment?
I really like what you've said repeatedly on your podcast. I listen to two podcasts religiously. It's you and Chris Plant. And you said you weren't a big fan of this guy, but I'm going to judge him on what he does. That's what you do with human beings. Yes, there's what they say, but there's what they do, which is based upon what's in their heart. And I was on Fox last week, and I was talking to Lou Dobbs, and he says, do we already have a massive foreign policy legacy for the president? Is that what we're going to have to say after 9 months? And I said, look, Lou, the trouble is I don't know which to choose or which is better. Look at foreign policy. NATO revitalized at 2%. ISIS crushed out of Mosul. ISIS crushed out of Raqqa. All our friends reassured in the Middle East. Israel, the relationship rebuilt, and then China told that we are here, but we understand that we're going to protect our friends in Asia. So, the foreign policy legacy is already there. But then look at the domestic, Drew. Lowest unemployment in 17 years, 1.5 million jobs created, 3% GDP growth for 2 quarters that we were told was impossible for the duration of the presidency. And then we've got a 73% drop in illegal migration on the southern border. And then just to cap it all, what would you say if a financial advisor came to you and said, Drew, give me all your money, and I'll give you a 24% increase in 1 year. And you'd say, you grab your wallet and run, right? 24, maybe 3%. We have seen the stock market increase by 24%. And you don't have to be a mucky-muck at Goldman Sachs to be happy about that. If you've got a pension, if you're a blue-collar worker and you've got a 401k, it's good for you. So, look, bottom line, he's crushing it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's inarguable. Some of this, on the regulatory reform, which of course gets no coverage because it's wonky, but it's so important. It was one of the main things that I would talk about before the election. He really has been. I mean, somebody said on Fox today he was the Babe Ruth of regulatory reform. I think that's fair.
I was in Dallas yesterday, and I heard the latest figure. So when I was in the administration, we had a 2-to-1 rule. We're not going to bring one new regulation out of the White House unless 2 regulations are rescinded. Do you know what that figure is up to now?
No.
16-to-1.
Ah, that's great.
We have got rid of 16 regulations for every new one in the last 10 months. Babe Ruth, it is.
I mean, if they cut the corporate tax rate, so much money is going to come flooding back into this country. We're not going to have enough people for the jobs, really. I mean, it is amazing. So what's your big disappointment so far? What's the thing? I know you're a Trump partisan, and that's fair. You have a right to be a partisan. But what's your big disappointment with the Trump administration so far?
Well, I mean, look, personally, it's the reason that I resigned. My big disappointment is we were a merry band of brothers when we won the election. It was a tiny crew. When I first met the president in the summer of 2015 to advise him as a candidate, he had 3 people working in Trump Tower in New York. I mean, 3 people. And it didn't get much bigger by the time we won the election. So we've allowed lots of people into the administration who had nothing to do with the original agenda, and a lot of people from the Bush administration that really, in many cases, are actually never Trumpers, but have been allowed into the administration. That's a problem for me, and that's why I left the building to say, I can do more for you, Mr. President, on the outside than on the inside. But sooner or later, that has to be fixed, because it's a cliche in D.C., but it's absolutely true. Personnel is policy. If we are going to have 8 years of President Trump, we cannot have policies undermined by people whose heart really isn't in it.
Yeah. Now, you said, I remember, I think it was the last time you were here, you said you were predicting that a lot of these guys were going to start to drop off. You're still predicting that?
Yeah, December, January, I'm still holding that line, especially at the cabinet level. There'll be some movement.
Okay. And my last question, the tax reform, I think they're voting on it in the House. I don't think they voted yet. What do you think? I mean, the House seems fairly good,
solid.
But the Senate, there's so little room and so much noise over there. Do you think there's going to be tax reform in the Senate?
Driving here just now, I was hearing there are rumors that the usual suspects that folded on Obamacare are already making noises that they're going to fold on this in the Senate, the usual GOP senators. I pray to the good Lord they don't, because even for selfish reasons, if we don't give the American people an early Christmas gift by reforming the tax code and making some kind of tax reform, even just a 50% solution, then they'll pay the price as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the milquetoast GOP establishment, the rhinos, will pay the price as well, but they'll be taking it out of our hide as well, in America's hide.
No question about it. There's just no question about that. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, thank you very much for coming on. I hope you'll come back. It's always really interesting to talk to you, and thank you for the kind words on Another Kingdom. I appreciate it.
I'd be delighted, and keep doing what you do, Drew. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Really interesting. I mean, it reminds me of that Teddy Roosevelt thing about how, there's no credit to the critic. It's only the man in the arena. And I think, some of these guys are in the arena. We are, it's fun for us to attack them, and, but it's tough to be out there doing it.